everyone, welcome back to the Colleges 9 and 10 YouTube channel. I am your trusty bullet journaling host, CPA Megan, back here again to do another plan with me, and this time we're planning for January, so I hope you're somewhere cozy, maybe you have a cup of something warm and a snack, but other than that, let's get started. So a lot of the spreads that I'll be doing this time around are going to be exactly the same as the ones that I did for our December plan with me. So I probably won't be getting too much into logistics of how these pages work, but if you're interested in that, please check out the card that is in the top right corner, right now. Anyway, right now I'm working on my January cover page. So the aesthetic for January is going to be fireworks and stars with a lot of really nice rainbowy pastels for a pop of color. So I'm pretty sure that some of y'all came here looking for spreads for New Year's, setting goals for the new year. I am not doing any of that. I'm sorry to disappoint. I just know how I am and how New Year's resolutions end up for me. But I've kind of come across a few resources that have changed my perspective on what New Year's resolutions can be, and I kind of want to share that with y'all. So, apologies to anyone who was looking forward to some awesome New Year's resolution spreads, but I'm not the place for that. I'm sorry. So here I am setting up my calendar spread for the month of January. So while I don't have any spreads that are specifically for New Year's resolutions, I do have a couple tips that I've collected over the past couple of months. My first tip comes from a YouTube content creator called CGP Grey. He's super popular, super cool, makes a lot of really interesting videos. So he's taken notice of this thing that people do, namely New Year's resolutions suck and human behavior is really hard to change. So instead of focusing on a single resolution, something that must be completed by January 31st, and if not, you're a failure, a more subtle, gentler approach to that is, instead of setting a specific goal, is to just give yourself a theme. Some examples of themes could be year of reading, or year of health, or year of coding, stuff like that. And yes, it sounds broad, but that's the point. The reason being, in the case of changing your own behavior, it's not necessarily the tiny little things, the precise actions you take that matter. It's more of the overall trend. That's why with New Year's resolutions, it's so easy to let one slip up ruin your entire year. And that's kind of why people give up on their New Year's resolutions by like February, right? So I think it's really important to be able to give yourself that kind of grace and flexibility. And that's why I'll probably be establishing a theme. Maybe I'll post it up on the Instagram, and we'll see what happens from there. Anyway, in this talk of changing your personal behavior and making changes for yourself, I wanted to talk about how to adapt and change your surroundings and your personal practices to make things easier for you. So if you watched our last plan with me video, what I'm working on right now are my habit trackers, and they look a little bit different than the habit trackers that I made in the last plan with me. I told y'all, I don't journal every day, and since I want to journal more often, I decided to change up the format of my habit trackers to maybe incentivize me to use it more often, give myself something a little bit more interesting to look at, something more interesting to interact with, so I actively want to journal and make that process easier for myself. So, on the topic of changing bullet journal spreads, I suppose, I want to talk a little bit about how I've changed over the quarter and how maybe y'all can learn something from how I've changed and implement that into maybe how you look at remote schooling, because #remote school is garbage, how you look at your environment and see how that affects how you're learning or how you're just existing within your own space. So here you can see that I've opened up a new spread, and I feel like this is a good place to talk about change. I realized over the last 2 months that I didn't have enough space in my bullet journal to write down things that were important to me, especially when it comes to my work. So you know what I did? I adapted and I gave myself a full spread to write down work stuff. And in comparison to the other ways I've changed over the quarter, this is pretty small. Like, I'm using 2 pages of paper instead of 1 page of paper, but I feel like it's really important for us to reassess the processes and the implements that we're using to best suit our needs. So way back in the day, I used to try and do a paper finance tracker, like a budget tracker where I write down everything I spend and everything I buy. That just wasn't working for me because I found it really annoying to try and keep receipts. So I just put it onto a Google Sheet, and I found that that was way more convenient for me. So I would recommend that if there is any process or implement that y'all are engaging with that isn't serving you to the capacity that it could or should, there's no shame in changing that. You should be doing whatever you have to get whatever you need to done. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Alright, so next up, I am someone who really appreciates a nicely planned out and regimented schedule, down to the hour, down to the minute, darn maybe even down to the second. Yeah, I had one of those and then it fell apart in like 3 days. That's fine. I realized that through remote learning, I had to give myself a lot more grace than I thought I would. And I also underestimated how much my schedule would change throughout the quarter. I don't really know why I thought I would be attending a 6 p.m. section with a TA that I didn't even know. But yeah, my schedule changed, and at first, I was made really uncomfortable by that, but I just had to remind myself that I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I have other commitments. I have things that I find more interesting at 6 p.m., like dinner. Oh my gosh, dinner. I also learned over the course of the quarter that it is perfectly fine to want to just get through the day. As someone who loves a regimented schedule, you can probably imagine I love to schedule out my entire week. But I fell into this trap of thinking if I mess up one day of the week, the entire week is ruined. I mess up on Monday, the rest of the week has gone to garbage. I used to think that planning just for the day or just getting through the day was kind of short-sighted. I've learned that it's actually kind of a good strategy because it grants you way more flexibility and gives you leeway for things that happen that are just unexpected, things that you can't fit into your schedule 2 or 3 weeks in advance. So learning that really impacted my work schedule for the entire quarter, and I feel like it's for the best. So now that you've listened to me ramble for 9 minutes, here we go with our final flip through for January. So here is my cover page. followed by my January at a glance calendar. I'll put in the dates whenever I get there, whenever I finalize my freaking schedule for winter quarter. Here is my new and improved habit tracker. Didn't really talk about logistics of this. So we have every single day of January, and underneath every day is a little circle. So if I complete that task for the day, I'll fill out that little circle. I thought it was just a fun way of reimagining my habit tracker and maybe making it a little bit more fun so that I will actually interact with it more. And right next to it is my brain dump of miscellaneous things. Next up, we have my brain dump for work. As I told you before, I made it twice as big because I have a lot of work stuff to write down. Next up, we have my brain dump pages for school and clubs. Next up, I have a little quote page. So it says 365 new chances with my first 2 days of January. And here is my spread for the first full week of January. So with that, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching this 11-minute monstrosity. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye.